This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by the Countertop Store, Central Arkansas's premier countertop authority. For custom fabrication and installation of granite, tile, laminate, copper, and more, the Countertop Store, 888-510-4773.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 7:20 on a beautiful Tuesday morning. And we're keeping an eye on the situation that continues to unravel in Ferguson, Missouri, in light of the tragic shooting death of 18-year-old Michael Brown. And here to weigh in on this, we have our friend of the show, Todd Starnes, host of Fox News. Todd Starnes, Fox News and Commentary. You hear it throughout the day here on 96.5. Todd, good morning.
Hey, Alice. Good morning. Glad to be with you.
I appreciate you joining us, and I encourage folks also to go to Amazon or go to your local bookstore and buy your latest book, God Bless America. And you've been weighing in on this civil unrest in Ferguson, and there's, quote, peaceful protests that turn into not so peaceful. But your take on it, and I have to agree, is that it appears the Obama administration is kind of orchestrating this tragedy.
Well, it certainly appears to be that way. Very, very disturbing. The administration, we now know, has been in cahoots with Al Sharpton. The reports from the L.A. Times and others are telling us that Attorney General Eric Holder and Valerie Jarrett have been keeping him informed of what's been going on and what their plans are. We do know that Eric Holder told them to remove the tanks and the heavy firepower back on Sunday, and he also tried to suppress the videotape of the convenience store robbery. So this is very troubling. And then when you tie in this, the president's two public speeches about this and his statement, it really does seem that they have decided to insert themselves right into the middle of this narrative.
And what do you make of the fact now the president has asked Attorney General Eric Holder, to go in tomorrow and discuss their game plan with Al Sharpton, when his role should be to work on the investigation, but clearly part of his responsibility or his focus will be on the race element and the civil unrest. Alice,
they sent 40 to 50 FBI agents there to investigate. I mean, this is really unprecedented. I mean, this amount of attention to a case. And keep in mind, we still don't know what happened. It is very possible, and there are reports out there that a number of witnesses have in fact confirmed that the police officer's version of events. So I think that folks need to take a step back, and boy, you ought to see the vitriol, Alice, that I have gotten because I've dared suggest that we need to wait. And the president early on suggested that we needed to have sympathy for the family, which I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with. But I suggested that he also should have expressed sympathy and condolences for this police officer, A, who got injured in the line of duty, and B, whose reputation is being dragged through the mud. Alice, because I said that, I have gotten death threats. I've been accused of being a racist. I mean, you name it, they've hurled it in my direction. But here was the point I was making. The president said, we really don't know what happened yet. So if that's the case, then he needs to be sure that he offers condolences to everybody.
Right. And one last thing I wanted to point out, and you mentioned this a few days ago, the days are running together, but when there were calls for the name of the officer to be released, the officials finally did that, but at the same time they also released the video of Michael Brown strong-arming a local merchant, stealing some cigars from the store, and the civil rights protesters argued about the release of the video and trying to disparage the name of this young man. But you had mentioned the connection of now all of a sudden the administration is upset, once again blaming a video like Benghazi for what is going on in this situation.
And Alice, and I want to touch on the mainstream media for a second. Remember the mainstream media were like, we demand that you release the video, your evidence, and they filed the Freedom of Information Act request. They filed the FOIAs. So the police officers were required by law to hand over the video. So what happens when they hand over the video? The media goes on the attack. And it honestly feels like the mainstream media is producing a reality television show. I've been watching the coverage, and it really is embarrassing to watch these people act like they are in some sort of a war-torn country. They're in Ferguson, Missouri, for crying out loud.
Right.
And one of the things that really irritated me, Alice, that everybody's attacking the police. The media, they're not even attempting to hide their disdain for law enforcement. And last night was a great example of this. They were complaining because the police officers were forcing them, to get out of the way and to get away from the protesters, and they kept refusing to do that. Then I think the MSNBC guys came under fire from the protesters. They were throwing rocks at them, and they're like, "Oh, don't tell us what we should be doing. You can't tell us where to go." And then all of a sudden, when they start throwing rocks, they're like, "Oh, please save us."
Right.
The reason. Hey, MSNBC, the reason that they don't want you standing in the middle of the street is because you're going to get hit by a brick, you morons.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Right, and the calls are also prohibiting police from actually protecting the stores and the local people.
Yes, they are. So they need to stop, and everybody's getting arrested, Alice. Everybody's getting arrested. And what really amazes me is that these people are still able to tweet with their hands behind their backs in handcuffs. And these people, there's a difference between being detained and being asked to see your credentials and being thrown into jail and having a mugshot taken in your fingerprints. So that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened.
Yeah. Well, it is a crazy situation, and good thing we have Eric Holder going there to figure it all out tomorrow.
Yeah. You know what? He'll be leading the charge for the protesters.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what we need, Alice?
What's that?
We need to send Medea.
Yes, she will clear it up. She
will clear the streets.
She will put an end to this nonsense. Well, we appreciate your thoughts and your intake. Todd Starnes, Fox News in commentary. You can go to toddstarnes.com. Check out his work on Facebook. It's always you always have a keen insight. Todd, thank you.
Thanks, Alice.
Appreciate you. And it's true. The unrest on the streets there is just unimaginable. Last night, another night of tense unrest. 31 people were arrested on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. And here is Fox News' Garrett Tenney with the latest on what happened overnight there in Ferguson.
They're saying that last night didn't go quite as well as they hoped that it would now that the National Guard is here on the ground in Ferguson. They had many of these crowds that they've been talking about all week, these protesters that come from out of the community, out of the state even, to really cause ruckus, to be able to cause violent and criminal acts, as Captain Ron Johnson called it. He said that really this is going to take the entire community to come together to be able to solve this crisis.
And that is true. It will take everyone in the community. The problem is there are a lot of folks from outside the community that have come in to instigate some of this violence. And I can tell you, Patrol Captain Ron Johnson has done a fantastic job of helping to bring about peace. Here is Missouri Highway Patrol Captain Ron Johnson on that.
All these criminals at night that are masking themselves and hiding themselves behind peace, let them come at night so we can identify them, so we can take them away from our community and put them away and make our streets clear so they can no longer mask themselves behind the peaceful protesters.
And that is key. That is the call to action for many of those there in Ferguson. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Ben Ferguson, radio show host, will weigh in on this, and then Gary Marks, Coalition for America's Future. This segment of the program brought to you by the Countertop Store, 9817 Maumelle Boulevard. Give them a call, 888-510-4773.